The Arrowverse and the DCEU are the two biggest live-action series that are based off the DC universe. Since they're based off the same thing, it makes sense that a couple characters have appeared in both universes, despite the fact that the two universes focus mostly on completely different characters. So in this video, I'm going to go over all 19 characters who have appeared in both the Arrowverse and the DC Extended Universe, and assign a point for each character, and whichever universe in the end has the most points is declared the winner. So let's begin with the characters from Man of Steel who also have appeared in the Arrowverse. So let's begin with Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, aka Superman. Certainly one of the harder choices of this video because both of the actors and the characters in this video definitely have a lot of things going for them. The Arrowverse version is played by Tyler Hoechlin, while the DCEU version is played by Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill, I think, looks more like Superman, and also the actor is a lot better. He's just a better actor than Tyler Hoechlin. Maybe not necessarily at playing Superman, but just a better actor overall. And also his costume, at least his latest one in Justice League, is certainly better. On the other hand, Tyler Hoechlin, I think, feels more like Superman. I think his presence on screen is more Superman-esque. I also think the writing for the character has been so much better because he has like a hopeful vibe to him, while Henry Cavill Superman, it's like the biggest complaint about the character, at least in Man of Steel and also Batman vs. Superman, that he's just too dark, and I actually do agree with that. I think Tyler Hoechlin has that on him. There are definitely a lot of good things to say about both of these characters, but overall, I think that while Henry Cavill is great, I prefer Tyler Hoechlin in the role because his writing and his presence on screen, I just think it makes me, it reminds me of Superman a lot more. So that's 1 point for the Arrowverse. Next up is Superman's father, JorEl. This is definitely one of the easier ones to decide in this video because while in the DCEU he's played by a pretty great actor, Russell Crowe, and he has a very interesting role in Man of Steel. In the Arrowverse, he's had little to no role at all. The only time we've ever seen him is in a flashback or in the opening credits of Supergirl, where we see Superman being sent off to Earth, and we see JorEl and his wife Laura Van, and he's not really played by any actor, and it's probably just fully CGI, so this is an easy point for the DCU. It's barely fair, but there are also characters very similar to that who had a big role in the Arrowverse but not at all in the DCEU, but have appeared. Laura Van, Superman's mother and Jor-El's wife, has a very similar situation. In the Arrowverse, she's barely appeared and she doesn't even have an actress, while in the DCEU, she's played by Ayala Zur, and she appears in the beginning of Man of Steel. She's certainly a pretty good character in the beginning of Man of Steel, and automatically gets this point. So the DCEU has 2 points and the Arrowverse only has 1. Next up is Superman's girlfriend/wife, Lois Lane, although in the Arrowverse and the DCEU it's currently just girlfriend or fiance. Lois Lane in the Arrowverse is played by Elizabeth Tulloch, doesn't really have a very big role. She's appeared in 2 episodes total, Elseworlds Part 1 and Elseworlds Part 3, and I didn't really like her very much in the role. On the other hand, Amy Adams plays Lois Lane in the DCEU. She has a fairly large role in Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League, and I thought that she was actually fairly good in the role, so I think this is a fairly obvious choice. Elizabeth Tulloch wasn't great, I don't think. She barely had any role at all. Amy Adams I thought was pretty good, so this is another point for the DCEU. So that's 3 for the DCEU and 1 for the Arrowverse. Next up is General Zod. General Zod is another easy choice for me. In the Arrowverse, he's played by Mark Gibbon, but he has a very, very small role. In fact, General Zod has technically yet to appear. He's only ever appeared in an illusion where Superman was infected by some sort of other colored kryptonite. I don't really remember which one, but then he saw his worst enemy, which in this universe is General Zod. Doesn't seem it's Lex Luthor, and that was the fight between Superman and what he thought was General Zod, but it was actually Supergirl. I do think that General Zod here, the fact that he barely appeared, I mean, it's certainly not a very good showing for this character here in this video. Well, in the DCEU, he's played by Michael Shannon, and he's the main villain of Man of Steel, and he's probably the best main villain in the DCEU, or it's between, I think, him and Ocean Master. I think that he's definitely very, very, very good. I think Michael Shannon is a very good actor. I think that his rivalry with Superman is pretty good. So overall, easy choice for the DCEU. It seems like the DCEU currently is on a roll where it's 4 for the DCEU and just 1 for the Arrowverse, but I think that is probably not going to last very long. So let's move on to the characters from Batman vs. Superman, starting with Jimmy Olsen. Now, Jimmy Olsen, I do think, has been kind of butchered and not done well at all in either of these universes. In the Arrowverse, he's played by Mehcad Brooks, who looks nothing like the character and is barely anything like the character at all. Similarly, in the DCEU, he's played by Michael Cassidy, who looks more similar to the character, but doesn't really look very much like him either, and he also doesn't act like him or has a very different occupation. Both of these versions of Jimmy Olsen are not very good, but I just think because he has much more screen time, and although I don't really like him very much, I think that if he wasn't called Jimmy Olsen, I probably would definitely like him. The Arrowverse wins this one, so that's 4-2. Next up is Lex Luthor, the main villain of Batman vs. Superman, and also the main villain of Supergirl Season 4. In the Arrowverse, Jon Cryer was cast in the role, which is a very controversial casting, because he's mainly known for his role in 2.5 Men, which is a comedy, not a very good one from what I've seen, but keep in mind I've only seen like one episode, and that was like 7 years ago or something. But Jon Cryer, I thought, proved himself to be a very good Lex Luthor, despite only appearing in 3 episodes, but I think that honestly, just from those 3 episodes, he's probably my favorite Lex Luthor, or live-action Lex Luthor to date. On the other hand, you have Jesse Eisenberg, who was a much more controversial casting, and he did improve himself, and he was just a really bad Lex Luthor. He didn't act the part at all, his motivation was all out of whack, and he wasn't even bald, so I think this is an easy one for the Arrowverse as well, making it 4-3, so the Arrowverse is catching back up. Moving on to Anatole Knizev, also known as the KG Beast, although in both iterations of the character, it seems like either he's moved on from the KGB, or he doesn't really have anything to do with him. In the Arrowverse, he's played by David Nichol, and he's had a fairly large role on Arrow in Season 2 in the flashbacks, Season 5 in the flashbacks, and in the present day in Season 5 and 6, also a little bit in 7, while in the Arrowverse, he was a villainous character in Batman vs. Superman, and he's played by Callan Mulvey. I think this is a very easy one. I do kind of like the DCEU version of KG Beast, but I mean not that much. But on the other hand, the Anatole Knizev from the Arrowverse is a very good character, and he could have been a great main villain of a season. They didn't do that, but I think he could have been, and he is a great character overall. So that's another point for the Arrowverse, meaning that they are currently tied 4-4. Next up is Mercy Graves, who appeared in Batman vs. Superman and also appeared in Supergirl Season 4. In the Arrowverse, she's played by Rona Mitri, but in the DCEU, she's played by Tao Akamoto. I don't really think either of these characters are very good, but I heavily disliked the Arrowverse version of this character. I disliked her brother much more, but I also disliked her too. And while the DCEU version of Mercy Graves isn't great either, I think she's a little bit better at least, so the DCEU gets this point, so it's currently 5-4. Next up is by far the biggest characters who have appeared in both the Arrowverse and the DCU in terms of their roles in both universes, Barry Allen, aka The Flash. This is a very easy one for me. The DCU version of him, Ezra Miller, I think is really bad in the role. He's probably not a bad actor. I haven't seen it in much, but I do think that the casting is way off, and the acting in terms of how he played Barry Allen was really bad. On the other hand, Grant Gustin, I think, is great in the role. The main character of The Flash, he's probably one of the best characters in the entirety of the Arrowverse, and I think that he's really good. Not to mention that his costume, like every single one of them, is better than Ezra Miller's version of the Flash's costume, but certainly the Season 4 costume is miles better than the Justice League costume, which is crazy because of the budgetary difference. But overall, I think Grant Gustin's The Flash is so much better than Ezra Miller's Flash, so that is another point for the Arrowverse, tying it back up 5-5. So moving on to Suicide Squad, which has a couple characters that have been in both universes, mainly because the only reason the movie exists is because they used the Suicide Squad on Arrow initially, and that was kind of a test run to see if people would like them. They did, so they made a movie, so it makes sense that like, a lot of characters have appeared in both universes. First off, we have Floyd Lawton, also known as Deadshot, played by Michael Rowe in the Arrowverse, and played by Will Smith in the DCU. Michael Rowe definitely looks more comic book accurate, but Will Smith, I think, is also pretty good in the role. I personally like the Arrowverse's version of Deadshot a little bit more. I think that he just has a better storyline. I think the actor is probably better. I mean, Will Smith is Will Smith, but I think in terms of playing Floyd Lawton, I think Michael Rowe was better in the role. So that's another point for the Arrowverse, meaning it gets the lead 6-5. Next up is Harleen Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is a very easy win for the DCEU. In the Arrowverse, she's played by Cassidy Alexa. That's her body. Her voice is Tara Strong, who, although is a very, very good voice for Harley Quinn, probably the most popular or famous voice for Harley Quinn ever, she's still, all she had was a cameo in the Arrowverse. In Arrow, she appeared for like 6 seconds of screen time total. She was supposed to have a bigger role, and who knows, maybe if she did, she would have been better than the DCEU version, but as of right now, she's nothing more than a cameo. In the DCEU, Margot Robbie plays Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad, and she's definitely fairly good in the role, so that's an easy point for the DC Extended Universe, tying it back up 6-6. Next up is Digger Harkness, also known as Captain Boomerang. In the Arrowverse, he's played by Nick E. Tarabay, and he's the main villain of The Brave and the Bold, the second episode of the Flash vs. Arrow crossover event, which was a very good episode. Although he wasn't the best part of it, he was pretty good in it. He also appeared in Lian Yu, the season finale of Arrow Season 5, where he had a fairly good role. On the other hand, you have the Suicide Squad version of Captain Boomerang, played by Jai Courtney, and I think this is a very easy win for the DCEU. Jai Courtney was very good in the role, maybe my favorite character in Suicide Squad. I thought that he was great. He feels more like Captain Boomerang, definitely more comic book accurate, definitely a lot more fun, enjoyable, and unique, so that's an easy point for the DCEU, and they get the lead 7-6. Next up is Tatsu Yamashiro, aka Katana. In the Arrowverse, she's played by Rila Fukushima, while in the DCU, she's played by Karen Fukuhara. That's crazy that both of their last names start with Fuku, but anyway, I think that the Arrowverse version is certainly better. In Suicide Squad, she barely had any lines, and she didn't really have any good scenes either. Well, in the Arrowverse, I think she has a fairly compelling storyline. In Arrow Season 3, she has a couple good moments overall in that show, and I think the actress in the Arrowverse is at least a little bit better from what we've seen. Again, in Suicide Squad, she had barely any role. It feels like she was just there just to be there, so I think that's another point for the Arrowverse. So it's tied up yet again 7-7. And last but not least from the Suicide Squad is Amanda Waller. In the Arrowverse, she's played by Cynthia Adai Robinson, while in the DCEU, in Suicide Squad, she's played by Viola Davis. This is certainly a hard one. I think both of the actresses were good in the role. I think that both the characters were fairly good, but I think I'm going to give it to Cynthia Adai Robinson for this one because I think she was just a little bit better. She was more morally ambiguous and straight up evil, because Viola Davis's character was kind of straight up evil, which I don't think really worked very well, while Cynthia Adai Robinson's Amanda Waller was at least just morally ambiguous. I also think her storyline in season 2 and 3 and a little bit in 4 was at least a little bit better than the Suicide Squad movie version, so that's a point for the Arrowverse, meaning the score right now is 8-7 for the Arrowverse. So Wonder Woman has no characters, or debuts no characters, that has also appeared in the Arrowverse so far, and going ahead and either do Aquaman and Shazam, so that just leaves us with Justice League. First of all, we have Henry Allen, who in the Arrowverse is played by John Wesley Shipp, while in the DCEU he's played by Billy Crudup. I think this is a very easy choice for me. John Wesley Shipp is so good in the role. All the scenes between Barry and Henry in season 1 and 2, they're very emotional, where especially the ones where Barry talks to Henry in prison. On the other hand, the one scene we get, which is very similar between Barry and Henry in Justice League, I think has no emotion. It's just nothing. So I think because of that, because of how much better Henry Allen is as a character, because of the huge amount of screen time Henry in the Arrowverse has on the Justice League version of, or the DCU version of Henry Allen, I think the Arrowverse gets the point. So for the first time in a very long time in this video, the Arrowverse, or like one of the universes, has a 2-point lead, where the Arrowverse has 9 and the DCEU has 7, and considering there's only one character left, that means the Arrowverse has already won. But just for the sake of seeing what the final score is, let's see who wins with the last character. And the final character comes from the end credit scene of Justice League, and that is Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. In the Arrowverse, he's played by Manu Bennett, while in the Justice League, he's played by Joe Manganiello, and just automatically from the screen time, the Arrowverse wins. On top of that, the Arrowverse's version of the character is really, really good. Like, Manu Bennett is so good in the role. The storyline over the course of the first 6 seasons of Arrow and other things here and there, they're really, really good. While Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke looks to be very good, but we just haven't seen seen very much of him, so that's another easy point for the Arrowverse, meaning that the final score for now is 10-7, and the Arrowverse officially wins in this video. There are obviously other characters, like the characters who are going to appear in the future movies of the DCEU, Black Canary, Huntress, and King Shark, and characters who are going to appear in the future of the Arrowverse, confirmed at least, and that's Batman. But for now, until we get to there, the score is 10-7. So let me know if you disagreed with any of my points. What if you were to do this video, what would your points be? Which universe do you think is better? And if you like this video and you want to see more things like this, let me know what you want to see in the comments down below. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.